people walk out of their house and instead of just going on autopilot to the big box store or autopilot to Amazon, we are disrupting those search results to let people know, hey, there's a local business here, and you could go check them out and you could go spend that money at that local business. Business owners are like sovereign entities unto themselves. When you walk into a business, you're walking into someone else's kingdom.
You're listening to Brainwork Framework, a business and marketing podcast, brought to you by focus-biz.com.
Welcome back to another episode. With us today is the founder and CEO of Virtual Storefronts by Uspace, Tobin Brogunier. Virtual Storefronts is a digital platform designed to help small businesses, independent retailers, and local entrepreneurs gain better visibility online. So excited to have him on. Tobin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely, and we always love to get in the minds of entrepreneurs, both with the SEO, organic leads, marketing space. But we'd like to ask, what were you doing before that kind of led you into what you're doing today?
So my background is in commercial photography and editorial photography. I worked in Manhattan for about 7 years. I worked in Minneapolis for 7 years. My work was with major companies as a contractor, running my own business. I would hire my own crews, my own teams, and we would do day contracts for major corporations and just shoot commercial stuff. My career spans from the tail end of film into digital. You, as a photographer, you can't be behind the curve in technology. You have to know what's coming down the pipe. And I had a lot of experience both working with all of these major corporations and working with enterprise level technology, but also running my own business. So having to learn all of these constantly evolving platforms, formats, digital techniques was just a natural part of my job for 2 decades. Eventually, what happened was I got to the point where I was like, well, first of all, these businesses need the businesses that I was working for, the major corporations, they had a hand up. So in terms of marketing, they have scale, they have the budgets. If they need some money, they have deep pockets or they can get it from wherever. And then you had the little mom and pop businesses. So when I moved to Georgia for personal reasons, like a relationship, I didn't have my network of professional work that I had in the North. I grew up in the North. I grew up actually in Maine. So I'm here in Georgia and I needed to work with smaller clients in a smaller market. I started organizing these local businesses and I was like, wow, these local businesses need a lot more. They needed better quality stuff. They needed better ways to reach people. They needed better imagery creation. They needed better marketing, like focused, higher level marketing. So I worked with those businesses and put them all together on an Instagram feed. And it was a shared audience and we cycled through, each one had a day on a 14-day cycle. That worked pretty well. So it allowed a lot of businesses to get much better. As a photographer, I was able to deliver a higher quality product and they were able to access a larger audience. And that then turned into what I'm doing today, which is Virtual Storefronts. Virtual Storefronts is kind of a mashup of my experience having my own business and also trying to solve the problems of those small business owners that are trying to reach their local markets, because there's so many problems. I mean, to unpack all of them would take a long time, but just on a very basic level, to give you an overview, on a personal level, as a photographer, I was in charge of either contracting, and I contracted many people to build a portfolio presentation for my work that cost thousands of dollars and had to be re-upped every 3 years. It was very time consuming, very frustrating, making sure the SSL certificates are registered, all this kind of reinventing the wheel to create a website. You know the drill. You're sending in the certifications to Podbean and making sure all of this busy work that we have to do as business owners. And a website is just this huge pile of extra busy work that I had to deal with as a business owner. And I'm a pretty tech savvy guy, so I can do it, but would I rather not do it? The answer is yes. I would prefer not to build a website. And as I like to say, does anyone get up in the morning and say, hey, I want to register a domain, find a host, build a website, decide on the aesthetics, figure out the content? No one gets up in the morning and says, oh, that's what I want to do today. It's 2025. And Google is telling these local business owners, hey, if you want to be found, if you want to be discovered in local search, no problem. All you got to do is build a website and compete with Walmart.com and Lowe's.com and ZalesJewelers.com if you're a jewelry store, and show up in local search results. No problem.
Nice.
It's easy, right? And at the end of the day, not very reasonable for Google to say, hey, all you got to do is build a website. There's no such thing as just building a website anymore, especially since in these local search results, which is something people don't realize, Google has two modes. It has the global mode, and then it has the local search mode where it's like, I'm looking for a lawnmower repair shop right here, enter. I'm not looking for the global whole of lawnmower repair knowledge. So there's two modes for Google, and we are entirely focused on that local mode. And the issue that people have, and people don't realize this because when you type in, I'm looking for a lawnmower in Andrews, North Carolina, you don't think about it because it's what's missing that's the problem. What you see is you see Walmart, you see Lowe's, you see all of the major chain stores in this area will show up for those items, but who's missing? It's the local stores that have those items are missing in local search results because Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, they have the ability, they have the money, the time, and they have the incentive to make sure that local search results are flooded with their corporate search results. And so that displaces all of the local businesses. They just don't show up. They're invisible where everyone is looking in these search results. So that's a huge problem. And Google hasn't figured out how to solve that problem for the local business owner, except to say, hey, Chris, listen, if you got a lawnmower place, no problem. Just build a website, optimize it to the point where it can compete in local search with Home Depot. That's why 2 out of 3 businesses, we're in a rural area, have opted out of having a website at all. They've been through it. They've had bad designers. They've had people that are not fully honest or just disappear after the job is done, hold their credentials hostage. All kinds of terrible stuff happens with website design and building. It's this really intimate relationship you have usually with a stranger or someone ideally who's been referred to you that costs a lot of money. You want the picture with the toilet in it to be removed? That's an extra $500. Some of our biggest fans are in their 20s because they're like, I don't want to deal with this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's resonating with myself and our audience because it's so true. I didn't wake up wanting to build a website, but it was a necessity that I felt I had to do. And I see other people struggle with it as well, both building a website, but showing up in local search results. And this is where the warmest, most organic, interested buyers hang out. This is where they find solutions to their problems. And if businesses, the smaller businesses, aren't showing up, that's a big problem. And here you come to save the day with your new offering that helps them do all these things without all that friction, all of that work.
Exactly. Because you as a business owner, all of your audience as business owners, we all know the pain. And me as a business owner, we all viscerally understand the pain it takes and the time and the opportunity cost. So the idea is, wouldn't it be great if there was just a service that gave me the results of a website where I didn't have to do all of the work. I didn't have to build all of this stuff. I didn't have to register domains. I don't have to update the WordPress backend software to fit the internet that's a constantly shifting sands of the internet. If you look at a lot of these abandoned domains, essentially effectively abandoned, if a website is not constantly maintained in the current ecosystem, if it's not updated every 6 months, it starts falling apart. And you'll see with people that when we ask them, do you have a current website that we can look at? They won't even give us their own web address because they don't want us to see how it's fallen apart. No one has a Main Street business because they want to spend time behind a computer. They want to talk to people and they have other management stuff to do. So our premise is basically like, I have an idea. How about one company builds all of that stuff for you, and then you just order it, and it's a subscription that's very low price and annual, and we simply, you don't even have to build it. My background's entirely marketing. Everyone who works here thinks like a marketer. If it's not good, it's not in. If it's a unique value prop, it is front and center. Why not have a marketing place, like create a very Chef Ramsay style one-pager that like delivers all of the information that you need, boom, like a silver bullet. And then here's the best part. We just send you a link and you approve it, right? Like you ask for changes. It's just, you're just editing a profile basically inside of a social network like Twitter or something. It's just each storefront is a profile inside of a network, and they're all working together to provide all of that data to Google. together. So there's like thousands of keywords. This is the best described rural county in the United States. There's over 10,000 keywords just hovering right around over my head in a county of 1,700 people currently. So there's more keywords than people in the town that I'm in probably right now. So it's a lot of data that Google doesn't have access to right now. So the way that I describe it is that Google goes by these businesses and it says, okay, I want your brewery to be in Google My Business. So when people search for a brewery, they see the local brewery, and Google's pretty good about getting those categories. But does Google know that the brewery has hummus? Does Google know that the brewery has a patio? Do they know that they have karaoke night and all of this stuff? Well, Google does know that if you actually have a website and document all that information and give it to Google. But that sounds like a pain in the butt. That sounds like a 20-page website. And if you're doing it right as a small business owner, and this is the smartest people I know who are in your demographic, you're in your late 20s, people in your demographic are thinking the smart ones do the one-pager website. And essentially it's what we're doing, where you don't have to maintain too much and it's fairly simple, or use a link tree or something like that, where there's a bunch of links. We also include 12 customizable links on a virtual storefront. So you can link to every profile that you're on, just push a button to text or whatever. So the idea essentially is to remove that burden and say like, hey, we specialize in delivering this and in solving this problem for you. It's literally 22 million businesses that can benefit from this. Because of that, our prices can be absolutely unbelievably low. And people are in disbelief of our pricing, but our pricing model is not fictitious. It does make sense. Once you're doing a few thousand of these, the numbers really do start to add up. It's the promise of the 90s when the internet was actually working for everyone.
Right. And that was something I wanted to mention and highlight within your journey here is it was interesting hearing that you were in more of a higher ticket, higher end, working for subcontracting in corporations, and then to go into more of a rural space and say, okay, I want to work with the mom and pop with a much lower budget, and arguably you would have to be doing a lot more work. But within that, you stumbled upon your $1 million idea. You realized, okay, here's a huge problem that needs to be solved. Here's how I can solve this at scale with some automation and a team. And if we can do this the right way within a process, look at the entire market that's available to us. Boom, that's your $1 million. There it is.
Because we were using the current pieces that were available to us, which was an Instagram feed. And Instagram has advantages and disadvantages, but at the end of the day, it's a limited system that's built for a global perspective, right? And so this is part of the trick of everything. This is part of the paradigm that we live in that people don't really see because they just take it for granted. Everything that you and I use day to day in technology is configured for a global perspective because it has an operating assumption that when I am on my technology, the first thing that I want is the best that ever existed in the entire world, the most viral content on Facebook, the most compelling recipe for cornbread when I'm looking for cornbread on Google, the smartest answer in ChatGPT. And that has a place, and that's definitely part of the most viral conversation on X or the hottest topics across the globe. These are, generally speaking, the founding principles of the technology that we use from Silicon Valley every single day. And that's not wrong. It's just missing a part of human life. And a part of human life is everything that's just around you having some level of precedence, because what's around you immediately impacts your life in a way that whether or not there's a conspiracy for seeding the clouds in the Gulf of Mexico affects your life. There's abstractions and big things going on, but then there's very specific stuff that happens in your immediate surroundings. And the problem is that stuff's kind of just thrown into Google. It's thrown into Facebook. So Google just kind of keeps local business listings. It doesn't solve the problem of finding what these businesses have. Google could just revoke all of those local listings overnight if they wanted. They could monetize everything that they're currently showing. There's nothing mandating that they have to do it. And then with Facebook, Facebook kind of is the revoker of those rights because every Facebook page has this issue of deprioritization, right? So when people are saying, I just consulted a guy who's opening a new business and he said, oh, I need to get my Facebook page, my business page up and running. She's like, I use it some. You might just stick with your personal page for a little while because like you have about 20 times as much traction when you post as a person. Facebook is demoting, essentially Facebook, because it's configured for the whole world. It has this viral content that you're competing against, and it's highly demoting the Facebook business pages because Facebook essentially is saying, we will promote you if you pay us. Back in the day, you have to pay $1 per like, and people got 10,000 like, and then Facebook was showing, turned out like 1 to 2% of the people that liked your page, that you just paid $10,000 to get to like your page. And if you want us to show it to more than 1% of the people who like your page, then you're going to need to boost the post. And so this is just a classic misapplication of business principles that are scaled business principles. Facebook is using an idea for business that's applicable to global businesses, but it's applying it to the little guy so that the little guy would then have to go into the back end to an enterprise, white collar, I know everything, ads, and that little guy is lost. And what also happened is that the Facebook pages would pay the money, they wouldn't get any ROI, and then they were told they just needed to create the most viral content on the planet. It's just one trap after another because the whole configuration of all of these platforms is inherently configured to undermine localization of information. That's just what it comes down to, because localized information is the least important. And what we've done is we've completely inverted that with our platform. Only local is the most important part of only local information. So it's literally, we have live feeds on this platform that are only within 5 miles of the storefront towns that we have. When storefronts take over or come into a town, we open up a feed and it becomes a storefront town. And then that feed literally excludes, what's interesting is we exclude everything outside of that. So that gives priority to what's happening to you in your personal space, like first priority. And so we're really engineering technology that's very counterintuitive to people. It takes a learning curve with it. It takes time for people to acclimate to it. But I think as people acclimate to it, as they get used to the idea that information doesn't have to be this global competition, it doesn't have to be an argument you're having about politics or whatever on Facebook, and that it can actually just be localized information, I think people will really warm up to it.
You don't need the largest audience. You just need the right audience. That's why there's podcasts and YouTube channels with 1 to 200 subscribers. If you have the right audience, that is still worth something. So these localized results, and we've seen it time and time again with these other platforms. They encourage business owners, hey, it's a free profile. We're going to show you this. And as soon as you're hooked on it and provide all the information, then it's a pay to use. So we've seen that with Facebook. We've seen that with Google for local map pack results and even for SEO. They're not going to return the favor, which is unfortunate. But if we have good guys like you out there providing services that won't do that, we have something great out here that can help local people, local businesses, right within their community.
I'm glad that you get it. Not everyone fully gets it. And I love the people that get it because you're like right there.
We see it. We're a part of it, both business owners and helping clients. These are the struggles we run with. And it's something that we kind of see down the pipeline. I called this with Google back in the day with schema markup. When they said, why don't you optimize your website to be in this certain format to do this? And I was like, well, that's great, but what's going to happen after? Like, don't worry about it. It's just for SEO. And then suddenly AI overview comes through and featured snippets. And now, sure, there's ways you can get found and get in front of the right people, but it's harder on those platforms now. It's literally a pay to use, pay to place.
It really is. And we do have an upfront fee that actually works in a really good way. Because there's an upfront fee, which isn't expensive, it does verify that every single person who's on the platform is the actual verified business, because we are verifying that it's a trusted local source of information. Interestingly enough, it's not truly a social network where people can just create a profile and let it go. We publish these profiles. We control the publishing of the profiles. We have the Clay County Sheriff on there, and the sheriff can publish information on there, and we know that it's from the Clay County Sheriff. Their Facebook page can't do that because there's a duplicate Facebook page that Meta won't take down for the sheriff. You should get a court order for that. I don't even know if that would help.
No kidding.
What you're talking about with Google will send out new requirements every 3 to 6 months they're absolutely laborious. And it's not reasonable for Google to expect that people would be able to do that or understand that or figure it out. Why not just create a service that checks the boxes that you need to check and makes it easy for you to do your job, which is what we want at the end of the day. We like to say technology without the work. We're removing those extra digital chores. You're going to put a bumper on an intro and you're going to be posting it on. No one needs extra digital chores at this time. And so that's what we aim to do, is just check that website box and give you the freedom to do whatever else that you want to do, but also to just nail that local search, be found locally. Just check that box of making sure that people in your area know that you're here. Marketing at the end of the day is reminding people that you exist. The most important thing, that you can't do anything more in marketing if people don't know that you exist. So creating a pleasant, repeated reminder of your existence and that you have what people offer. So when someone Googles iron skillet in Andrews, North Carolina, and they hit enter, Nancy's Treasures is going to come up because they have an iron skillet. It tells me, hey, I don't even know what Nancy's Treasures is. Is there a store called Nancy's Treasures in town? That sounds kind of cool. Wait, they have iron skillets? I don't even have to click on that result. I'm being made aware because people, over 50% of people in the United States as a whole, want to shop more locally, and we just need more tools to do it. So just a tool for that.
Absolutely. And I think now there's even a shift in perception. There's this momentum now where people have a mission to support more locally. They're moving away from these larger corporations and these brands who aren't serving their best interests and supporting more locally, which is great to see. So it's a great opportunity for you coming into one, to save the day, but even at a bigger time where they're now more aware of this issue that they're having. Hey, are you trying to get out of the death grips of large meta group, Facebook, Amazon, Google? At what point do they become a conglomerate? Disney, Amazon, Google, do they all become one? Hopefully we can have smaller businesses here, because that's what runs the economy. It's the mom and pop, it's the small solo business owners that are out there. They're putting in the work. They just don't have access to those tools and resources that they did before.
We hope. So the idea is to open up the channels. We need to open the channels to those businesses and allow Google to see it. So Google looks at these businesses and it says, I know what the category is, but I don't know anything inside of it. To really itemize with the keywords gives Google high resolution data about those businesses so that Google has the opportunity. We feed Google that data. Google has the opportunity now to tell people who are searching that you can get an Afghan throw blanket right here in Andrews instead of down at Walmart, where you're going to get something that's far less quality. And actually, it's going to take you 15 minutes to get there. That's about opening up the door of those businesses digitally and letting Google see in, because otherwise it's just been this dark, undocumented space because of the website barrier, the website hurdle, I guess we could call it. One of the things that people really forget about local businesses, and we were just talking about getting those channels open so that we can get more, local businesses have a unique thing to offer that you cannot get online. There's certain levels of expertise, local, knowing the territory, knowing the products intimately, being accountable for the product. If the toaster is really a bad toaster on Amazon, you got to pack it back up and ship it back to Amazon, and they're going to make you pay for that anyway. It's like you just take it back to the store and you say, you sold me a bad toaster. 9 out of 10 times, because this is a public business, they're going to deal with it because they're in the business of solving problems for local people every single day, which is a totally different mission than just distribution of stuff from a massive warehouse. And I think that local expertise that you get, people are warming up to that because we have plenty of screen time and plenty of making judgments ourselves based on reviews and all this stuff, kind of this isolated, non-socialized, transactional stuff that we do in order when we're consuming in 2025. But also when you go to that store, you have that conversation and it opens up ideas. It opens up neural pathways in your head about things that you may not have thought of. That person that you're talking to, who you often knows things about you and your needs that are unique, that they might be able to suggest. And AI is seeking to become like to offer what a local business owner can offer you with an in-person experience right here. And you don't pay any extra. You may pay a little bit more. It might cost a little bit more to buy something from a local business owner. But at the end of the day, the value that you get with that relationship and that understanding with a local business owner is a unique value you simply cannot get at a big box store. You can't get it on Amazon. You really just don't get it elsewhere. And I think that's important to remember.
Absolutely. I think a lot of these consumers, something important for them to realize is that a smaller business has more to lose, more to risk by having an unhappy customer. They're more likely to tell someone versus when they had a positive experience. So by supporting local, you're going to get better customer service because they want to support each other. So I think that's something consumers can realize. And if businesses start to realize, they can start to capitalize more on these local search results where people are searching for solutions to their problems.
Absolutely. And I think there's a tendency because of shop local initiatives, there's a tendency to feel like it's some kind of altruism or that what you're doing it to help the poor little business or whatever. And I really think that we should dispense with that notion because these are local leaders who have expertise, who are actually very savvy people. They have a lot to offer. It's not just for them. It's really for our benefit when we go to a local business and have a conversation with that person. We are getting more value for our lives purely. And I think that's just important to keep that in mind, that this works on, it's what's called in capitalism a mutually beneficial relationship. And those store owners are in a position they have that unique benefit waiting for us. We just need to walk out of our doors and go there. And that's what we're designed to do, is to show up in these search results, to show up in feeds, not to do an e-commerce transaction, but in order to preview the business so that people walk out of their house and instead of just going on autopilot to the big box store or autopilot to Amazon, we are disrupting those search results to let people know, hey, there's a local business here, and you could go check them out and you could go spend that money at that local business.
I love it. It's a much needed service and at a perfect time where there's a shift in momentum here within the market. For those who are interested, where can people find you online and get connected with you?
Okay, so the best place to get information about us is virtualstorefronts.co. That's the service and sales website, and it gives all of the information that you need about our virtual storefront. We also have a web app where there's 3 apps. So you can download the VS Shopping app. If you're in Kentucky, it's not going to help you do local shopping at the moment. That's going to happen if you're in Michigan. That's the future as we expand. You will get a flavor for what it is when you download the app. You can actually follow businesses and get instant alerts whenever they post, which is a new feature that just came out, which is really cool. Virtualstorefronts.com is the web app, and you can kind of just see how the live feeds on virtualstorefronts.com. It's very easy. If you want to find out more about virtual storefronts, you can Google virtual storefronts, and we are the #1 search result. So we're winning on that.
I love it. That's wonderful. And we'll also have those links available down in the description and the show notes for everybody. Now, Tobin, we're a quarter into 2025 here, but I wanted to ask, what are you looking forward to most in 2025? Are you changing any of your strategy? Are you pushing further, or are you just kind of keeping up with the same thing that's been working for you?
That's a great question. We've been doing this pilot for a few years now, and we've had to iterate our product to make it. Business owners are like sovereign entities unto themselves. When you walk into a business, you're walking into someone else's kingdom. That's part of the distaste they have for big tech, because big tech just dictates the rules and no one likes to be dictated to, least of all our local business owners. In order to create the product that these business owners wanted, we had to iterate it 4 times. We recreated it over a period of about 2.5 years and added new features that we felt that they needed, reconfigured things to make it easier for the shoppers. So we have the right product market fit right now. We just onboarded 2 executives. So we have Fortune 500 executives working at this company, which I'm happy to report. It's a first for me, for my career as a contractor. And as someone running the company, it's a welcome addition to have people that are really sharp working here. The plan is to expand market by market from this area. We're currently doing a raise. So if there are investors out there that are looking for an investment, we could talk about that. We're talking mostly to VCs and home offices and those types. But to give you a little backstory on that, we've done mostly angel raises up to now, and now we actually have someone in charge of that. So now we're going to scale an entire business. I won't go into details, but we have a market by market strategy that works with nonprofit distribution in the beginning to seed the market. In other words, providing our channels to local leaders in an emergency situation, because we now have a way for emergency responders to instantly message anyone in their area who's following them. So this is a huge innovation that we have that's actually becoming the underpinning of where we're going to expand. That emergency responder network, we realized that there was an application for virtual storefronts. Everyone has a PIN location. Like a sheriff could post live information that anyone in the entire world can follow about the current situation instantly on the ground anywhere. So that's a huge emergency application that we're looking into and that we're expanding currently. We're testing. Anyway, that's part of our expansion strategy. Aside from that, it's a very useful tool for local leaders to instantly send out information about emergencies to the local population. Which town are you in Michigan?
So I'm across the lake. I'm on the other side of that one.
Oh, you're in Wisconsin.
No, I'm in.
Oh, I did not realize you were in the Milwaukee market. Okay, so you're in the nerve center.
I'm center of Milwaukee, close to Chicago, and then our state capital, Madison, to our west. Absolutely. Big market here. And then we have Appleton to the north. That's an emerging market now. And I love the nonprofit approach and the fact that you were listening to user feedback throughout the years of building. I've seen so many businesses fail because they spend so much time building a product and never asking the audience about what they want from it. So the fact that you took feedback and improved on the software already is a huge testament, and a lot of things coming in 2025. Very exciting.
It's very exciting. And we are looking forward to expanding. Appleton would be a good example of a market where we would begin, because we want to begin in smaller markets where it's easier to adopt. What you need to do is create a critical mass in an area. We're at the very tip of Western North Carolina, but we're 2 hours from Atlanta, Knoxville, Chattanooga, Asheville, and Greenville, South Carolina. So within 100 miles, there's probably about 25 million people. But there's literally 1,700 people in the town that I'm in. It's an odd spot. But our expansion really will be in this area first.
Very nice. And I've been to a few cities like that, the 1 to 2,000 populations, both for visiting, vacation. So I'm familiar with those markets, and great salt to the earth people. And I agree, it's great to kind of introduce that into the market. And I love that you're starting with nonprofits as well. I'll be speaking on AI and technology for nonprofits at a virtual summit in April.
Well, one of the things I love about podcasting is that the people that I meet in podcasting are always doing things that are interesting. And this is my theory about podcasters, right? My theory about podcasters is podcasters tend to be people who will get the production done. They will put their back into it. And so they tend to be a reliable crew of people. So I'm happy to add you into my podcaster crew because
that's great.
Yeah,
I agree. It's funny you mentioned that. I have a nonprofit I'm helping right now. Potentially it might be a part of the board, but they were talking about, I want to start 3 podcasts. And I said, wow, it sounds like a lot of work. I said, let's start with 1. If we do 1 really well for a year, then we can look to a second one. But hey, let's focus our energy on what's going to work. And that's the beauty of being on the board. You can provide direction to them and give them better ideas. So I love your approach, how you're helping people, and just the strategic approach you're taking to marketing. I love it.
Cool. Thanks for having me on. You are very blessed to have Chris on your board.
You're awesome. Thank you.
The guy who tells you not to do 3 podcasts is the guy you want on your board.
Who would have thought my biggest aha moment would don't do 3 podcasts?
That's an insight in what, as business owners, what we choose not to put our effort into is because everyone's living on a linear timeline. What you decide to do has to have maximum impact. And if you do 3 podcasts, then it's hard to get that 1 podcast to really knock it out of the park.
Well said, Tobin. I agree. Tobin, I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing all your wisdom and insight. You have a lot on your plate for 2025, but it sounds like you have the right team in place now for the growth and scaling phase, which is so exciting. So congratulations to you. Thank you so much, Tobin. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.